Okay, hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about two separate things. Our first thing we're going to be talking about is tip, tax, discount, and sale. Now, I want to start this off by saying this looks super confusing, but we're going to break this sheet down into a bunch of different spots, so you should be on the inside of your sheet. Vocab word, let's talk about what a bill is. Let's think, when you get a bill, you can get bills at restaurants, right? The bill is what you paid before tip, tax, discount, or sale. Remember, tip is when you give the waiter money, tax is how much they charge you on top of everything, a discount, and the sale you get to take things off, right? So, for instance, here are two separate examples. This find 20% tip on a $200 bill and find 10% discount on a $50 pair of shoes. Those are going to be important for later, but don't worry about them right now. But your step one when you're trying to figure out something is to look at your problem and determine if your problem is asking about tip, tax, discount, or sale. What is it wanting you to find? That's your step one. Step two is determine if the question wants the total cost or does it just want the tip, tax, discount, or sale. So it's going to say something like, how much did you pay after tip? How much did you pay after tax, after discount, after sale? If that's what it says, you want total cost. If it's just saying how much was the tip or how much was the tax, then you want just the tip, tax, discount, or sale. Does that make sense? Alright, so let's look at this. We got two separate sides. This top part is going to be when you need to know only tip, tax, discount, or sale. So we're talking about just the tip, tax, discount, or sale. Now, this side is going to talk about our tip and tax, and this side is going to end up talking about our discount and sale. Okay, so your first step is to write your equation. Example. What I mean with your equation will always be part over whole equals percent over 100. Now, I'm going to give you a hint. You might as well memorize that because you're going to need to know it for the rest of the year and next year. Part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay, you're going to write that equation. Then you're going to substitute the bill, which is how much you paid before. Substitute the bill amount from the problem into your whole position. So, here's where we're using our example. Find 20% tip on a $200 bill. Now your bill was $200, so we should insert $200 into our whole amount. Do you see how whole's on the bottom when I put 200 there? That's all it means. Alright, next it says substitute the percent from the problem into the percent spot. Now, in our example problem, our percent was 20%. So where do you think you're going to put 20%? Well, if you see a percent sign, I'm going to give you a hint, you're always going to put your percent there. So, part over 200, because we're still keeping our 200, is equal to 20 over 100. This 100 is like a gimme. Anytime you're using part over whole equals percent over 100, you already get a free number. They gave you a free number, which was 100, so your 100 always goes there. Alright, your next step, we need to figure out what our part was. Our part is going to be how much did we pay in tip, right? Because we're figuring out when we only need to know, this stands for tip, tax, discount, or sale, when we only need to know one of those. Right now I only want to know how much did I tip. So you're going to cross multiply to set up your one-step equation. It's going to look like that, right? Then you need to solve for your variable. Now how do you solve for your variable? You need to multiply those two together, divide by your coefficient. Okay, divide by your coefficient. That'll solve for your P, which is your part. Remember, cross multiply. You multiply those two together, you multiply those two together, and you get that equation. Okay, now, read over that. Okay, this is going to make a lot more sense tomorrow once we start doing examples, but right now we just want to get the foundation of the steps. Alright, now what happens if it asks you to find only the discount or the sale? Only the second part. When we come over here, you find your discount and your sale side. Same thing, write your equation. Part over whole equals percent over 100, okay? Fourth step is substitute the bill amount from the problem into your whole position. Now, how much was your bill amount? We're looking at our example up here. Good, your bill amount was $50. They wanted to charge you $50, okay? Then it says, so you plug in 50 in your whole. Whole always goes on the bottom. Then you substitute the percent from the problem into the percent spot. Now look at your percent. We got 10% discount. So we got a discount of 10%, so you're going to put your 10% there, your 100, your gimme. Now do you know how to solve? Do you know how to solve for your part now? Good, you should be able to cross multiply to set up your one-step equation and then solve for your variable, which is your part. Okay, again, if you solve this, it'll give you your discount of how much money you got to take off. If you solve this one, it'll tell you how much money you had to leave for a tip. Okay? Alright, now we talked about what you need to know when you only want tip, tax, discount, or sale. What about when you want to know your total? What happens when you want to know your total? How much are you going to pay in all? Okay, well, let's look at it. For tip and tax, again, you're going to write your equation. Okay, this is step 3 because you should have already done step 1 and 2 at the very top. So this is why it's step 3. Then you're going to, this one's a little bit different. Look, this time we're not going to be substituting the bill amount into the whole position. We're going to be substituting into the part position. That's because, guys, it wants to know after. So this bill, that's not how much you're going to pay in all, right? Because you have your bill and then you have how much you're going to pay after your tip or tax, okay? So that's why it's going to be, it's a part of it. You're not paying the whole thing with just the bill. Now you're paying, you have to pay the bill and the tip, and we're using the same example from above. So we want to substitute that 200 into the part position now. Alright? Now, this is a little bit tricky, and this is why I gave you this example, okay? You need to follow these steps. If you follow these steps exactly, you'll be fine. You need to add 100 to your percent from the problem and substitute it into your percent spot. So what I mean by that is add 100 to 20%, because remember at the top we're doing a 20% tip, and then you put it in your percent. So you have 200 over 100, or 200 over whole is equal to 120 over 100. Now, Ms. Hitchcock, why did you add 100 to the percent? Well, the 100 represents your total bill. You have to pay 100% of the bill, right? This 20% represents you have to pay 20% of that bill in order to pay the 20% tip. So you're adding the 100, which is the bill, and the 20, which is the tip, and that'll be 120%, and that's how much you leave in all. Okay, we're going to talk about that tomorrow too. How do you solve for your whole? Same thing, cross multiply to set up your one-step equation, solve for your variable whole. Now, I want you to think about, we added here, we added. Well, why did we add? Because tip and tax, you add money to how much you have to pay, right? What do you think is going to be different between tip and tax and discount and sale? Well, think about it. If you add to tip and tax, what do you think you're going to have to do to discount and sale? You get to take money off discount and sale, right? So what operation do you think we're going to see in discount and sale? Good. Hopefully you said subtract, so let's see. First step, what do you think it is? Give you a hint. It's the same as everything else. Write the equation. Okay, part over whole equals percent over 100. You're going to substitute the bill amount from the problem into your what position? You should say your part, because again, this is just, it's your original amount. It's not how much you're going to pay in all now. So it should be 50 over whole is equal to percent over 100. Now I know I'm solving for the whole, so I need to figure out the percent. Well, we talked about that. Now you're going to subtract your percent from the problem from 100 and substitute it into the percent spot. Now, why did you subtract 10? Because guess what? You got a 10% discount, so you don't have to pay 10% of that amount, right? So we take the whole amount, which was 100%. We get to subtract 10% because we don't have to pay that because it's a discount. We're only paying 90% of that 50. So how do you solve? We put 50 over whole is equal to 90 over 100. How do you solve for that again? Well, you just cross multiply to set up your one-step equation, solve for your variable, which is your whole. It'll look like this, same stuff that we've been doing. Okay, look at this. Your whole now represents what you leave at the table or the store. Our whole is how much we're leaving, so that's a nice little hint for you. Now, I want you to look at this one. It says how to do 2 or more. What if it says it wants to know how much you pay after tip and tax, okay? Or how much you leave after tax and a discount, okay? Well, what you're going to do is, your first step is you're going to find each amount, the tip, tax, discount, or sale, separately by using the steps above in the first set of boxes. So by using these steps, then you're going to, if it's tip or tax, you're going to add it to the bill. If it's discount or sale, you're going to subtract it from your bill. Now, I don't want you to freak out because you don't understand that. We are going to talk about it, but for right now, I just want you to know you can do this, and you can do it by doing it the tip and the discount separately, or the tip and the tax separately, or the tax and the discount separately, and then either adding both or adding one, subtracting one, something like that. Okay, I know we're doing this as a Google Doc or a video, but just because we're doing it together does not mean you're out of reading this over. I want you to read this over again before we move on. Alright, now you should have flipped over vocabulary. Guys, this is a very important thing. What we're about to learn is called simple interest. Now, this is stuff like your parents do or like I have to do. This is adult things that you need to know. So, we need to talk about some vocabulary. When we're talking about a principal, that's the original amount of money that we put into a bank or that we borrow from a bank. Okay, so principal, think about the original amount. Maybe we think about the principal because the first person in a school is the principal, right? The principal starts the school, so maybe that's what we think. The original amount of money we put in or borrow. Alright, now simple interest, we used that word earlier. It's a percentage paid based on the original principal investment, based on the original amount that we put into the bank, right? You don't need to know this, you just need to know that simple interest, we can solve it, okay? Simple interest is a formula on your formula chart this year. Now, you have a formula for it. I is equal to P times R times T. I represents the interest charged. How much money are you going to have to pay for borrowing this amount? When you borrow money from a bank, they don't just give you money. They charge you an interest rate. They say, we'll give you this money, but we're going to charge you a little bit more because they're being so nice by letting you borrow the money. So that's what we're talking about. If we put in money, if we put in our principal, if we borrow money from the bank, they're going to charge us a little bit, okay? They're going to charge us a little bit of money because they're being so nice. And they do that by using this formula. Okay, so we have interest charged is equal to the principal times R times the rate. What's that percentage that they're going to charge you extra? Okay, it needs to be in a decimal. Don't forget you can use DP to turn a percent to a decimal because in your question it'll give it to you as a percent. You need to turn it to a decimal. And your T is going to represent time. Okay, your time has to be in years. All right. So step 1, write through formula. Of course, it's going to be our first step. Step 2, look at the problem, identify the rate, which is going to be a percentage. Your rate's always going to be a percentage. And change that to a decimal using DP. Okay, so we're going to change it. If we have 3%, you're going to put your 3 and you're going to move it over 2 places, and it's going to be 0.03. Alright, then you're going to substitute it into your formula. See, I gave you a little example. I changed 3% into a decimal. So say this is 3%. You change it because your decimal goes there. 1, 2. 0.03. Alright, we plug it in, we substitute it into our formula. Then identify your principal and substitute it into P. So say we had $200. We borrowed that $200, right? We're going to put it into 200, and then you still need to find this T. Well, your problem is going to tell you how long it's going to be. So identify the time and make sure it's in years and substitute it into T. So your something should look like this. Now, when you have all these parentheses back to back, we know it means multiplication. So we're going to multiply them all together, and now you have solved for your I. So to save you some time, in case you're curious, if you borrowed $200 from the bank at a 3% interest rate for 2 years, they will charge you an extra $12 on top of it. So you're really paying, when you're going to have to pay them back, you're really going to have to pay them back $212 instead of just the $200. Alright? So, please, please, please read over this again. I know you think you're a genius and you know it, but I promise I don't even know it. Miss Smith doesn't even know it. Miss Grenade doesn't even know it. So, we have to study too. So you need to study just like we need to study, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Don't forget to submit your Google Doc. Bye. Have a good night.